Hi, it's Dorothy Guining with Scrapbooking Quebec. Welcome to another video in my series, Stampin' Up! Scrapbooking. Today I will be creating a double-page layout featuring Stampin' Up's Kintsugi Inspiration Suite. It's a collection that's in the 2025-2026 annual catalog. Here's my narrowed down selection. Everything I use will be listed below along with my link to Stampin' Up! And I want to show you my jumping off point. It's one of the sketches on page 28 of the annual catalog. I'm going to be using this one and I will be following it pretty closely. My plan is to stretch it to the left by creating a complementary page. So let's get started. Here is what's on my table. First of all, you can see I've already prepared one of the two foundation pages, and you can see it has a large frame around it. I'm pretty much following the sketch that I'm using as inspiration, and you will see that on the screen a little bit later on in the process. I'm also showing you that I reinforced the back with a bit of washi tape because I gutted it, and I gutted it as much as I possibly could because I do want to use that block on the complementary page. Now what I'm showing you are the other papers I brought in. So I have some papers from that Kintsugi Inspirations collection. I have white Willow cardstock. I have Misty Moonlight two-tone cardstock. And I also have a handful of scraps. You're going to see as well I matted a bunch of photos. Most of them are matted, a few of them are not. So the first two are double matted. They are going to go on the right-hand page. And the other photos, three of them are single matted. These are for the left page. And I have two photos that aren't matted at all. That's because I'm going to be putting those in this flip flap, which is basically an adhesive pocket that you can put on your page or on your page protector, just a way of adding extra photos on the layout. I have this gold metallic paper as well from Stampin' Up! And I have these glittery alphas. That is from my stash. It is a Shimelle product. Now here are a bunch of tools. I do have the Inspiring Imperfections stamp and die set. This is actually part of this Kintsugi Inspiration Suite. I also have the embossing folder, also part of the suite. I absolutely love this and I'm excited about using it. I have the Everyday Arches dies as well, and I'm bringing in the Thankful Garden dies. Now this, I've been using it a lot over the last few months, and for today's project I'm going to be using the standalone dies, which are some leaves here. And so now I'm going to toss all of this aside and continue working on my foundation pages. So the page on the right more or less follows the sketch. You can see that wide frame there, and the sketch is in the top left-hand corner. Now that block that I cut out from behind the foundation page, I want to use it on the left. So what I want to do here is kind of mimic what's going on the right page, but I definitely want it to look different. I'm not doing a repeat, but I'm kind of repeating the design. I'm also pointing out that my block is almost the same size as the block on the right page, but not quite. And when I do this type of mimicking, kind of mirroring the design for the foundation page, if I can't get it the same size, I want it to be visibly different. So my block is smaller just a little bit. So what I will end up doing is trimming it a bit more because I want it to be visibly smaller. If I can't make them the same, I want them to be different and I want that to be noticeable. You may also notice as well, I'm kind of auditioning different paper pattern combos here. So I decided on putting that blue tone on tone as the foundation layer, and I ended up going with two additional mats underneath the block. I tried it with just white, I tried it with that pale pink, and I decided to go with both of them. And you can see off camera, I trimmed down that block, I trimmed down the mat, and I adhered them all together. Now I'm playing around with the placement of the photos. Now again, I will have two additional photos on top of that 4x6 one there, and I will be using a flip flap. What I'm thinking at this point is I need to add mats to the photos that are on the left page. I already have white cardstock behind my photos, but now I'm thinking the blue that I have on the photos on the right page would look nice on the left. So off camera, I cut myself out some photo mats, and you can see all of this is ready. Now what I'm going to do is add those 2 extra photos in the flip flap. And the reason why I'm doing it now is because the photo that's going to be in the front of the flip flap is the photo that's going to be visible on top of this layout. And even though I don't plan to adhere that flip flap right away because I like to add them on top of my page protectors, I still want that photo handy because that's what's going to be visible on top of my layout, so it may influence certain decisions when I'm embellishing or adding colors and stuff like that. As you can see, I got out my Everyday Arches dies, and if you look at the sketch in the top right corner, there is a banner. So I'm going to be putting a fairly wide arch up there, and that's where I plan to put my journaling. So what I did was I selected 3 arch dies in different sizes, and I'm going to cut them out in white cardstock, and they are basically going to serve as the base layers to my embellishment clusters and home to my journaling. Now what I'm going to do is first die cut them with white cardstock, and it's after that that I'm going to emboss them, and I'm doing them in this order on purpose. I'm die cutting them first, then embossing them, because if I did it in the reverse order, when I die cut after embossing, I risked flattening out the embossed image on the paper. So that's why I'm die cutting first, then embossing. You're also going to notice I'm referring to my base plate for my cut and emboss machine. And the reason why is all of the sandwiches for this machine are listed there. So for a 3D embossing folder, which is what I'm using, I just have to use the base plate, the embossing folder with paper, and that gray plate. But depending on what I'm using, it changes, but they're all listed on the base plate, and I particularly like that feature. As you can see off camera, I did the 3 banners there, or the 3 arches, and now what I'm going to do is some more die cutting. I am showing you some vases, bowls, and flowers, and those were all die cut from that one piece of paper that's part of this Kintsugi Inspirations suite. Now if you look at the dies, there are dies to cut each one of those images. Obviously there's stamps for those images as well, but their paper also matches. So I'm just going to cut out one for you to show you how it's done. You can see with scissors, I cut out one of the vases. Now I am positioning the die on top of it. Then I will simply run this through the die cutting machine, and you're going to see out pops an absolutely beautiful vase. And I particularly love that there is no white line around it. So it's absolutely gorgeous. Now I did a bunch of those off camera, and I'm also going to show you some other dies in here. I'm going to cut it out with this metallic cardstock. There are some detailed flowers, and there's also some of these squiggly lines. They're supposed to be broken lines. Kintsugi art is basically a Japanese art where they take broken, I think it's like pottery or ceramics, something like that, and they glue it all back together. And the idea is the broken pieces mended together make something even more beautiful. So those lines there that are ever present in that pattern paper, but also in the vases, is supposed to represent the mended together artwork. Now I'm going to show you the rest of my embellishments. So I have a bunch of these vases here and bowls from that pattern paper, and I also have some flowers. I don't end up using the flowers on this particular layout. I will save it for another one. I also have a bunch of those detailed gold pieces. So some of them are like very detailed groupings of flowers. Other ones are those kind of squiggly broken lines. I also have some metallic flat gold dots. The top of them, there's like an impression of an image on it, also part of this Kintsugi Inspirations collection. And I'm showing you some die cut leaves. So I have some in old olive two-tone cardstock, and I also used that metallic paper. And both of those came from the Thankful Garden die set. So again, I've been using this a lot. It comes with stamps, dies, and stencils. For today's layout, I'm using 2 dies for leaves. In addition to that, I do have my embossed arches. I absolutely love them. And you can see I did do some journaling on vellum. I cut that out with one of the arch dies as well. And I also have my title here. So I have it on wax paper. It is Musée Picasso. And those are alphas from my stash. They are a Shimelle alpha. So what I'm going to do right now is start building embellishment clusters here. And what I plan to do is basically start by placing those 3 arches around my page, because that is going to establish more or less a visual triangle, and that's where I will be building my embellishment clusters and adding my journaling. I also want to point out that from the sketch, I'm kind of switching it up a bit. If you look at the sketch, there's like a 4x6 or a large vertical photo with 2 elements. I found those elements for some reason a little disjointed and it was throwing me off. So I just basically gravitated to what I would naturally do, which is kind of group them together. But this sketch did get me going, and that's what sketches are for. So I played around a bit with the placement of that smaller arch, and I decided to put it at the bottom of the page there. And now what you can see me do is bring out those vases, which is the next largest element that I'm using to embellish my page with. So I add 2 vases and a bowl in that cluster at the bottom of the right page. And now what I will do is add a few up in the top left. So I add 1 vase and 1 bowl. What I'm trying to do here, and I often do this when I'm building embellishment clusters, is I do use repetition. I'm using the same images, maybe in different colors, but I definitely do them in different sizes. You can see on the bottom of the right page, I have 2 vases and a bowl. Now I've added some leaves. And in the cluster in the top left, I just have 2 elements there, a vase and a bowl. And I will be adding some leaves. At this point, I'm kind of adding some leaves around the journaling, not liking it. Decide to lower it a bit and just tuck it in the top right corner on the right page. And I'm happy with that. Not quite sure where I want to put my title, so I toss that to the side. And now I'm adding some leaves over to that cluster on the left-hand page. And I'm really liking how this is looking. Now I do have those other detailed pieces, and I'm kind of playing around with the little grouping of detailed flowers. I end up adding one underneath the bowl on the left page. Can't really decide what to do with them on the right page. So again, I will make decisions later on when I am adhering all of this to my layout. But at this point, I'm kind of happy. Now I'm thinking I better find a place for my title. I do like that open area to the right of my photo, so I want to keep that open. So I decided I'm just going to incorporate my title in that large cluster at the bottom of the right page. So at this point, I have enough to start adhering. I'm trying to toss everything to the side. I could always take a photo here, but I didn't. And I'm just going to try to go with memory. You can see me coming in with a pencil. I'm just basically making a very light mark at the top and at the bottom, just to give me an idea where to adhere these photos. And then what you'll see me do is come in and erase those pencil lines. So I am adhering my photos, then I will start adhering my clusters. I'm not going to adhere my journaling right now, that banner in the top right, just because I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with that at this point. So you can see me working towards the bottom with that arch there. And yeah, hopefully you'll see it in the still shots at the end. Even though these get covered up quite a bit with embellishments, you do see the texture of the embossing image on it. It's absolutely beautiful. I think it is anyway. It's really fun. I'm the type of person that I typically don't bring out my embossing folders often enough, but they are a really easy and quick way to add texture to a layout. So you can see I have adhered my vases. I've come in with the leaves here. I've sped this up quite a bit because I'm basically placing it exactly where I had placed it when I was building these clusters. I continued adhering my title off camera. I adhered those leaves in the top right of that photo on the right page. And now what I'm going to do is just adhere all of these elements on the left page. So I'm going to start with that photo on the far left there, and then I will adhere the other photos, and including that embellishment cluster. And I'm hoping that I sped this up quite a bit. Hopefully it will speed up pretty soon, because again, I placed all of these and made my decisions. So I'm basically following exactly what I had already decided upon. This one is pretty simple here. I'm just going to adhere the photos. I will end up trimming down that banner because a lot of it, or I should say that arch, because it's just going to be tucked underneath the photo, and then I will add the vases. One of the vases, actually the bowl that goes on top, I end up popping that up on foam adhesive. I didn't mention as well, when I adhered the title on the opposite page on the right, the little detailed flowers that I just added underneath that bowl on the left page, I added them in 2 spots on the right page as well. So basically you can see it just to the left of the word Picasso there, and also in the top right corner of that small photo on the right. But you'll see that better in the still shots at the end. As you can see, I've moved ahead to playing around with my journaling. Now I'm not happy with it at this point, because I printed it on vellum and I find it's not showing up enough. So you're going to see off camera, I ended up reprinting my journaling, but this time on white cardstock. And I cut it out with one of those arch dies, but a bit smaller, because I still wanted to be able to see that embossed image underneath. And if you look at the top there, I added some little narrow strips of paper along with some of those gold adhesive dots. But basically, that is it. And as I mentioned earlier in the video, I will list everything I used in the description box below, along with my link to Stampin' Up. If you live in Canada and use the link, I will get a commission. If you have a local demonstrator, please support him or her. But if you don't and something catches your eye, thank you very, very much. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I'd greatly appreciate a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, Scrapbooking Quebec, I would be thrilled if you did. And if you are a subscriber, thank you very, very much. One more thing, I'm taking a week off of YouTube, and I will be back on my channel August 29th with my summer layout share. Have a great day, and I will see you then on YouTube. Bye-bye.